Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Alpenglow. This is part 4. Today we're going to be building a little bit of like a new office complex that's going to be a little more planned than the initial parts of the city that we've built. I'm imagining that this is kind of based around that sort of 45-degree angled light rail track that we've built there. You can see there right in the middle of the screen there. So I'm imagining that this main avenue that kind of angles through there was probably grew naturally out of the grid, and then they've added this light rail track and probably the roads around it to fit inside of this new development. I did a poll on one episode of my other series, Todos Santos, about how often you guys wanted to see the different episodes of the 2 series, because this is kind of really my side project to my main series. And this, it's going to be maybe 10 to 15 episodes, somewhere in there. It's definitely not going to be as long as I'm intending my Todos Santos to be. But basically, I asked you guys how you wanted me to break up the uploads. In terms of like how often you wanted each, and the majority of you said that you wanted 3 of each, or 3 of one and then 3 of the other, and back and forth until they're done or whatever. But a lot of you also said alternate every other, so what I've decided to do is kind of try to find a middle ground where I have my main series, Todos Santos, go for 3 episodes, 1 per week. And then I'll have Alpenglow, because the episodes are a little quicker to produce, come out over 2 weeks. I'll upload 3 episodes because they're just a little easier to do, a little quicker to produce, while still being a lot of fun. And they're definitely more popular than my Todos Santos series, which is fine. I want to do what you guys want, but I also don't. I definitely want to have my main focus be on a more detailed city, because that's really what I enjoy. But it's a lot of fun to take a break and just kind of do a little bit more of a vanilla thing. Speaking of which, this is definitely about as modded and detailed as we get in this series. Basically, what I'm trying to do is give the sense that there's like lots of off-street parking in this area, because it's a newer development and there's more space available than there was in the downtown core area. I imagine that they'd want to fulfill a certain amount of parking without having to build a bunch of parking garages and stuff, because land isn't at as much of a premium here. So basically what I've done is just clipped these parking lot assets that look ridiculous without any cars in them. I mean, it just looks like snow, which is fine, I guess. And I basically just done that to kind of give the sense that there's this kind of like wasteland of parking lots here. And then there's also a little bit of higher density. It's a little higher density than like a strip mall or something, but it's still pretty relatively spread out for this kind of development. But I just wanted to, do a little bit of an experiment with this sort of vanilla. It's not vanilla, but vanilla-ish style of detailed building. And I think it looks up close. It's not very nice looking, but from above, as you can see here, it adds just a little variety to the aerial view of the city. And now, as you can see, I'm adding some bus lines, because I figured along with this light rail and this new development, they'd also want to expand their bus network. And the bus network is something that undergoes some changes a few episodes from now. For example, this whole line looks really messy right now, and we just kind of end up cleaning things up in a later episode. So if it looks messy or weird right now, that will be fixed, and we'll get kind of a more cohesive transit system. That's still, I tried to work in like some quirks that you'd find in real systems, like lines that kind of aren't the most efficient, but they're kind of like a legacy of like an old road pattern or something like that. I was just trying to make it seem not completely inefficient, but also not perfect, because I think perfect can be kind of boring, and trying to add in some of that sort of realism to it is really fun to do, and just add some character to a build instead of trying to make a utopia, which is something I might do at some point in the future, trying to make like a perfectly efficient city or something, but really that's not something I'm interested in at the moment. And now we're just expanding a neighborhood here. I kind of wanted this to be like the extent of the original grid of the city. Maybe it reached this point early to mid 20th century, and then after that they started kind of going into more of a of a modified grid pattern, and eventually into, you know, cul-de-sacs and stuff. And we'll get into that later in the series. And I didn't base this off any place in particular, so I'm not like 100% sure as to, you know, its realism as kind of like a street pattern. And there are definitely parts that I've noticed that, especially from the first couple episodes where I was building roads, that are very unrealistic. But I think it's fine, and the eventual kind of street pattern that we get is pretty cool and works fairly well. Now you can see I'm just adding a little bit of a stadium area. I kind of wanted to go along with this whole new development thing. Maybe they had a big plot of land and they had the option to get a semi-professional sports team or something. It's not going to be like, a national highest level professional team or anything. But, you know, I think sports stadiums can be big focal points of cities, so I wanted to have at least one here. And it also adds kind of that spread out feeling, because we do have a big sprawling parking lot around it, which I think is not, that's something I don't really like with stadiums. I like when stadiums don't have a lot of parking built around them, especially when they're kind of like in downtown areas or, you know, city centers or something. Like US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis is one example I really like. It's built into the existing infrastructure. It's not surrounded by just miles and miles of parking. You know, it's integrated with transit and stuff, and it's still a really cool place for people to gather, and it attracts people to local businesses and stuff. So overall, I think stadiums are a positive thing, but when they're kind of built out in the suburbs with lots of parking, they're just, they're not as beneficial to a city, I don't think. I mean, look at in Detroit, Ford Field is a little bit more successful than the Silverdome, which is pretty much fallen into disrepair and is kind of a sad story, really. But yeah. Anyway, that is my rant about parking. So let's get back to what I'm doing. I just wanted to add some basic decorations, like some trees and stuff, just to, give it a little bit of detail beyond just kind of the snow-covered parking lots, because those don't look that interesting in Snowfall. I kind of like the snow texture on top of it, but it just gets a little repetitive and needed something to break it up a little bit. So I wanted to mention that as I'm recording this, I'm sitting at 199 subscribers, which is really cool. Probably by the time this is uploaded, I'll be at 200, which is just seriously awesome. I mean, I remember being at 0 subscribers and thinking, how am I ever even going to get to 20 subscribers? And I just think, I really appreciate all you guys watching these videos, and I really hope you're enjoying them. But definitely, if there's anything that you guys as subscribers and viewers would like to see, leave me a comment and I'll think about it, because I'm definitely thinking about other series I can do, side projects. I always want to have Todos Santos be my main series until I'm done with it, pretty much. But yeah, if you guys have any ideas or anything, definitely feel free to comment that, and I'll take a look at them. And I really appreciate you guys watching my videos, and it means a lot. So I definitely want to be able to involve you guys in what we're doing in these series. Speaking of that, someone commented on, I think, the first episode of Alpenglow that I should have this, instead of having this light rail line turn around here, suggested having it go under the overpass here. So I decided to do that, and of course I could have just had it go left instead of right at that road there and gone around the interchange, but I thought it would be cool to have, maybe they couldn't obtain the land there, or it was too expensive. It was valued as being too expensive, so they couldn't use their eminent domain, or they didn't want to for some reason. So they decided to just go within their own, the right of way that they already own, and go underneath the overpass and then curve back under. And we do extend this line quite a bit over to the east, I think. That doesn't mean anything to me, and probably doesn't mean anything to you in this context, but the east, I guess. But I just thought it was cool to have it kind of curve under here and pass under the overpass. I just thought that's kind of, one of the quirks you see in modern rail systems in a city that's been around for a little while, is that they can't always just cut a straight line exactly where they want to due to geography or historical buildings or whatever. So you see kind of weird twists and turns sometimes. So that's something I was just trying to show here. And going back to what I was talking about with potential new series or ideas or whatever, I have a couple ideas. I'm not going to say anything specific because I kind of want to build the anticipation of that. But I've been thinking about maybe doing some sort of like map creation type thing, like a big city, maybe just with a road layout, maybe even recreating the road layout of a real city, or multiple real cities, maybe having that be a regular thing. I don't know, because that's something that's kind of fun to do and doesn't take, it's not a huge time investment in terms of having to basically create a whole new series from scratch. It would just be one to a few episodes, I guess, and just hop into the map editor and do that, and use the overlay mod to make some roads. I think that would be kind of fun. And then of course I'd make it available for download, probably a version with roads and one without. So if that sounds like something you guys would want to watch, definitely let me know, and I'll think about doing that. And then another potential idea is like a really small town, kind of like my first series, Northrum Creek. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link up on the top right. But maybe another small, more detailed city that's more focused on kind of like the minute details and not as much expansion. Whereas this is pretty much all expansion, and Todos Santos is, kind of a 50-50 mix of expansion and detail. I definitely, miss that kind of like really in-depth detail where you just spend hours and hours detailing one little area. I'd like to go back to that style as a side project. So I have a couple ideas, nothing solid yet, but if you guys have any suggestions, I'm definitely gonna listen to that. So leave a comment down there if you have anything. And if there's anything you guys want to see in a series, definitely let me know, and I'll consider it. So here are the cinematics. I hope you enjoy those, and I'll see you next time on Alpenglow. Thanks for watching. Bye.